All right. Okay, we're live. Woohoo! Yay, we finally got this to work.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, and then let's see if there's a couple other people who can join here. And I'm going to share this. So those who need to see this can share. Okay, awesome. All right, my dear. Okay, and then I'll let you know if we have any other comments and stuff that kind of come through on StreamYard. But Jazmine, we decided we're going to talk about relationships, talk about like the common questions that we get from our clients with me doing energy healing, Jazmine, the psychic medium extraordinaire, and yeah. So, what would you say, Jazmine, is like one of your like most popular questions when it comes to relationships?
A lot of the times in my work, they just want to know, is this the person, is this the one? Is this worth it? Do I give up? Do I not give up?
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Sometimes they also look for their needs to be met in that person. And so that's something I get a lot, why that person is not fulfilling their needs.
Mm-hmm.
The big one.
Yeah. No,
What about you?
Yeah, I would say I get that too. There was a good period of time, because I would say, especially over COVID last year, I have seen I want to say either 4 or 5 of my clients get divorced. So there was, yeah. So there was and a lot of them, well, I should say all of them actually are doing quite well. So the thing is, it's like, when do I walk away? Should I walk away? How do I make this happen?
That's a big one. How?
Mm-hmm. And also the whole, I would say similar to you, it's like, how do I get some of my needs met? How do I get this person to be more engaged, or to step it up, or to do more? So yeah. So those are the common things that I get. So how would you say that you approach that then?
Okay. So it's my job to be as honest as possible, and especially during my live readings, because it is online, I don't like to get too personal. I don't need the whole world knowing if your man's cheating or anything like that. But most of the time, when they ask me a relationship question, they never get the answer they're looking for, because the majority of the time, the answer is them.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to take accountability for where they're at, where they're not happy at, and all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
You have to kind of understand, and this is what I tell everybody, you have to understand, even in a relationship, your self-love and self-worth has to come first, because that's what makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
No one can fulfill all the needs, especially one person. That's unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
I hope everyone understands that.
Yeah.
It's so important to do your own healing. And that is usually what I will point out when I get a relationship question.
Mm-hmm.
And some people just don't like that.
No, that is a tough pill to swallow, because I like the way that I typically say it is, I kind of spin it back and I go, well, before looking at what the other person is doing or not doing, let's take a look at your energy first. Like,
yes.
What is it that you have been emitting?
Yes.
And so here's one of the things that I kind of give as an example. Do you ever, and I know that this has probably happened to you, like you're thinking about someone, and then like next thing you know, you get a text from them, or they give you a phone call or something like that. And so it's kind of like, okay, so you know how that happens? Well, that's not that they consciously know this, but they can pick up on the energy. And so they will think about you too, and then end up contacting you. So the same thing is, let's say you are wanting someone, like the person you're in a relationship with, to pay more attention to you, or to do something, but you're not really actually vocalizing what it is that you want them to do, which which we kind of, you know, it's kind of like, okay, well then what do you expect if you're not saying it? However, the thing is, it's like, what that is we end up energetically courting to that other person some particular chakra, because they each signify something different. So oftentimes when that's the case, you can either court to someone at the solar plexus, where you want them to do something but you're not saying it, or you're courting to their third eye because you're curious about what they're thinking of you. You want them to agree with you, or to the heart because you want them to feel guilty over something.
Yes. But that's not good.
Yeah, but it's not the way to do it, because it's almost kind of like when you're pulling on someone so hard, they're gonna pull back, they're gonna pull away, and then when you just let go, then they come towards you. It's the magnetic part of us as humans.
My favorite analogy when it comes to love is a flower. You don't pick that person because that person will die. You appreciate it and love it and let it be where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you try to pick it and change it and form it, you're killing the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I could talk about this all day.
Yeah. But yes.
I think that's one of the biggest, hurdles too, is the self-realization, especially like what you just said when it comes to communicating our needs. Females seem to have the hardest time to do that, from what I've seen in my work.
Mm-hmm.
And it always confuses me because men are so different than us. They aren't going to think about, how do I take care of everyone around me and then take care of myself? You have to accept that as it is and I just got so intense. But you accept it and then you learn to communicate your needs. It's okay to ask out loud, this is what I need. Like for me in my relationship, we have a rule. If I need attention, I don't go throw a fit. I look him in his eyeballs and tell him I need goddamn attention and he needs to give it to me. The moment I get moody, there's so many other reasons it could be. Mm-hmm. And then you just throw that person in a cycle, and then you get in a cycle because you're picking up on their energy because you want them to read your mind. It's a whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's too much for me. Make things simple. I find simple works the best. How about you?
Yeah. And to be honest, I have had to learn simple. When you come from certain, when you come from a place that didn't have boundaries, or you come from a place that was really controlling, or whatever it was, where you felt like you couldn't ask, then it's almost like you have to really unlearn that. And
it's hard.
Yeah. But what do
uncomfortable.
Most men say? Well, why didn't you just say that?
Exactly. But you learn to pick that up. Then you ask yourself, why didn't I just tell you what I need? Mm-hmm. Why does that make me feel uncomfortable? And then you get to the core of that problem, the energy, where it's coming from. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people just miss that mirror reflection. Mm-hmm. Your partner is here to teach you. Yeah. And if you're not learning and growing and realizing things about yourself, then it may not be the one. Yes. In my opinion.
Yes. So I bet you get that question a lot too. Like, is this person the one? Is this the one? Oh my gosh, there's so much I could say about this too. So what do you get with that?
I kind of hate that question because relationships, in my opinion, are teachers. Not all of them are meant to stay, but sometimes that energy, especially sometimes the one when I pick it up, sometimes it's good, and that is your teacher for that moment, and that may be your teacher for 10 years. But you also have to understand that it's okay if we're done teaching people, and it's okay to move forward. I think I just get scared when people say the one, because for a lot of people, that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
For a lot, not everyone, but like we were talking about, like love is a certain vibration, and it takes two people to be on that vibration for it to be healthy and true love. But that also takes your self-healing, and that a lot of people don't want to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So as an energy healer, how would you go about like that question? Is that person the one?
So what I typically will start with anytime talking about relationships is I say basically very similar to you, like the relationships are here to teach us. They're for our growth, are actually more of our personal growth more than anything.
100%.
Yeah. And so they're for our growth and our expansion. And when you take a look at the relationship, first off, from that part, like the romance and the sex and all of that, that's great too. That's a little bit more of the novelty of it, because any long-term relationship knows that that's, you're not going to be having sex, all day long, every day. Right. Yeah. So that's, so just kind of like take that off the table. Understand that your partner, whoever you chose to be with, okay, because that's the other thing too, is your partner this is all about I choose to be here. Your partner says, yes, I choose to be here. Okay.
Yes.
And then that's really more for when we reflect back to each other the unhealed parts of ourselves. Don't get mad, be grateful that person is actually showing you what your triggers are, because that's meant for you to heal that. We're never really responding. Yeah, we're never really responding to the situation at hand. It's usually some inner child thing from before, and now your partner's reflecting that. Hello, like let's bring out that little 7-year-old version of yourself and tell her it's okay and you're safe now. So that's kind of what I say is off the bat. Relationships are for that. Now, is the person the one? This is where we need to be really careful with that too, because I love how this one relationship expert, Esther Perel, she's from Belgium, she says this quote, "Your partner is on lease with the option to renew."
Yes.
I was like, holy shit, that is profound.
That's so true.
Because so what that means to me when I heard that, and I had to like listen to it again and again, and I was just like, okay, so what that means to me is that I need to always be on my own game and continue to grow, and not just be all complacent because, oh, I locked this person in, he put a ring on it, so it's fine now. No, that doesn't mean you stop.
Stuck.
Yeah. That's not good.
Yeah, the feelings you get when that happens, that's when the depression comes in, the anxiety comes in. It's bigger than just being a couple to the world. And that's kind of what it comes down to, is just our teaching and what we learned growing up is this is what you're supposed to be. But does it work?
Yeah.
For you?
Yeah.
And everyone's different too, by the way.
Yeah.
No one get confused on that.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, the person could be the one for now to help you through this particular stage in your life. Like, I was married before, and if I hadn't experienced all the different things in that relationship and even kind of see how I grew from there, like I wouldn't be where I am now. So, like a lot of people, and this is another thing too, especially when I've worked with a lot of people who have been divorced, I'm always like, you need to be really cognizant. You get into a new relationship, understand if you are feeling very similar things from the previous relationship, that's what you're carrying over, and you need to be really mindful about that.
And even before then, your family cycles. like for me, I was aware that I was starting to live my mom's life, my grandma's life. I started ending up in these relationships where I wasn't treated how I was supposed to be treated. But it wasn't because of that person, it's because I didn't know my worth.
Mm-hmm.
The moment I knew my worth and I saw the pattern in my family, I had the opportunity, because it's just an opportunity. You don't have to take this opportunity. The awareness gives you the sight,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't give you the action that you need to change the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I would urge everyone to pay attention to the patterns in your family, in your own life, in your friendships, everywhere, because that's where a lot of the answers lie. You just have to be honest with yourself. And I feel like that's what a lot of people miss too.
Yeah.
Especially in relationships. It's not all that other person, whether it's a mom, dad relationship, son, brother, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
it's a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes our projection isn't necessarily wrong, but the perspective could be changed to bring you more healing and understanding.
Yeah.
But that involves honesty.
Yeah.
Do you find that hard?
Oh, yeah. I would say, I mean, besides even just with myself, because there's times, so many times I'm always having to be brutally honest with myself, you know? I mean, as healers like we are, I mean, we still have to do our own, we still have to unpack our own stuff, and it's a never ending process. So just for anyone who's in the process of healing, understand you're going to be healing. You're just going to continue to heal. Okay. So yeah, so just get used to it, and it's okay. You're always going to be better tomorrow than you were today. So,
yes.
But yeah, being brutally honest is the other thing. So it's like when I always take people back to looking at themselves versus just the other person, what the other person is not doing, what they're saying, what they're not doing, what they're not saying, what they're not giving to me. It's like, well, wait a second. If you want to change that, if you want to change the outcome, that means you need to, whatever it is about you that is either pining for that, trying to grasp onto that, we need to change the energy around that in order for you to receive. Right?
Yes.
And so it's so interesting, because when people finally experience even a little snippet of that, you don't forget it. You know, you end up kind of going, okay, whoa, I changed it. And then it happened so quickly that I got a different result. I got a different outcome. And but it does take the honesty to begin with to say to yourself, yeah, you know what? I've been insecure. I'm insecure, I'm too afraid, or I'm too, I'm holding on to some old parts to myself that is not making this possible. And when you can do that, you free up that energy then to go, okay, this is what I'm going to do differently. It's going to scare the shit out of me, but I'm going to do it anyway because I want to feel loved. And it's so interesting. Most people push it away.
The fear behind feeling true love is a little mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
To be fully accepted, but the fear behind it is because they don't accept themselves either. So it's all a reflection. Oh my goodness.
I know. So whenever I get people who are like, they say, well, I was abandoned, I was rejected, I was this, I was that. I usually ask these questions last because of how hard hitting they are. But I'm like, well, how do you, just like what you say, how are you rejecting yourself? How have you been abandoning yourself and being unloving to yourself?
Yes.
That is why, if you do that to yourself, that's what you're going to receive from another person. You energetically 100%. Set the precedent for how you are going to be treated in the relationship. And if you don't do it,
there's a lot, you don't want to, at some point you are a victim in a sense, but pretty quickly after that, you have to turn into that survivor, or you're going to have that victim mentality. For me personally, because everyone is different, I really needed a label to what I was feeling or doing to understand how to change it. So at one point, my narrative was, I have a narcissistic mother. I had to raise myself. I never felt seen. I never felt heard. None of that. And so the problems kept arising. And I would just put all my anger on her, because how could she not raise a daughter, essentially?
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to therapy. And this is why I love therapy. I do so much meditations, but I don't think any meditation in the world would have told me I was codependent. Knowing I was codependent gave me the power to change my life and change my narrative. So if you are someone who needs those things, please go to therapy. Go get help to get through that healing process, because the healing process is not easy. Sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do. Speaking of boundaries, it took me 29 to 30 years to learn boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about boundaries, or how long did it take you to get comfortable with setting? It gives me anxiety just thinking about it, setting boundaries.
Oh my gosh. I think the first time I set boundaries was in 2014 when I was dealing with the toxicity from my parents. So for those of you who know me, you know that I chose to leave a religious cult that I grew up in. And as a result, my parents were saying a lot of different things to me that were not very nice. Let's put it that way. And it kept just coming. And I would listen to it and I'd beat myself up and I feel terrible, even though this is what I need to do for myself. And it was actually my husband who said, he goes, I hate to say this. He goes, it pains me to say this. He goes, but they're not good for you. And he's like, you have to tell them to stop. You have to tell them to stop. And so when I finally, grew a pair and said, I was like, if you're going to talk to me this way, I can't talk to you.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of consequences as a result of that. But that was the first time that I did that. And slowly over the years, and it didn't dawn on me even that year that I didn't grow up with any. I grew up with none, 0 boundaries.
Yes. I didn't realize that till last year. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I guess boundaries make me healthy.
Yeah.
Because for me, my mom always, again, nothing on her, but it's just the way we were taught. Family is everything. You're there for everything, even if it puts you in an uncomfortable position. Mm-hmm. And it sucks to say this because we're raised, a lot of us, family's everything. You don't betray them. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, just like you said, they're not fucking good for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excuse my language.
So, but when you recognize that, when you realize that someone or a group of people could be making you feel so bad about yourself, so bad about your decisions, or trying to get you to do only what they want you to do to make them happy, then that's where you kind of have to go, you know what, I have to set a boundary between me and these people. Doesn't mean I'll never have contact with them again. But then if it's something that is repeated, then that's where I kind of say to someone, it's okay to love someone from afar. It's okay to be in contact once a blue moon if that is all that you can do. Because everyone's sensitivities, energetic sensitivities are different. And especially me being an empath and growing up in that space where I needed to take care of everybody. And I can't do that now. I realized I also have to take care of myself, that this is where I have to have more and more boundaries. Once you start enforcing them, it gets easier to do a little bit more and more and more when you get really good at starting to manage your energy better. So
yeah, for me, mine a lot started with my friends. I had to set boundaries with my friends first, mm-hmm. because setting boundaries with my family gave me such bad anxiety that I could instantaneously cry. Because I was the person to keep things together. I was the person but in reality, that's still the story you tell yourself. But then when you set the boundaries, you honor that part of you who feels, what's the word I'm looking for? Just not loved, I guess, overall. So it all comes back to love and your own, giving yourself your own love. It's crazy.
So that brings up a good point to talk about then too. Like, because I've thought about this forever. Like, what is love? What is it really? So it's like almost like when we figure out what it's not, then
I think that's how you have to do it.
Yeah, it's almost like doing the process of elimination. Like, these are the things that I don't want this. I don't want. It's kind of like dating, right? Like, you kind of figure out like like, I don't want this type of person. I don't want these habits. I don't want, and so it's like, so what is it? What is it really? And how would you answer that? Because that's a really loaded question.
It is super loaded. And the hard part too is we always change. So what we're looking for when we're 20, this is definitely not going to be the same of what you're looking for when you're 30. So for me, to give like a guideline, because I've never seen love, I didn't know what unconditional love was. I didn't know what healthy love was. And as I learned and developed my own, it's two people, whether it's a relationship, friendship, whatever it is, who can accept each other for exactly where they're at without coddling them and being honest with them and like learning and growing with each other and and being communicative with people, like with that person. It's not necessarily a feeling, it's the actions behind it. And so people always, I love him, I love her. Bitch, that is going to fade away. I promise. Even if it doesn't, it's not the same, okay? It's the action that you put behind it, but acceptance of exactly where that person is. For you to love me exactly who I am in that moment, because that's going to change, and then love me in that new moment. Does that make sense? It's not, it's a lot more simple than I think people realize. I can tell you within the first year if I'm going to love someone or not. And I think people try to over-analyze and think we're supposed to be living in a fairy tale, when in reality, you're triggered by this person.
That's a good point.
It's not easy. True love is not easy, but it's also a vibration. That means the toxic stuff, yes, everyone experiences it, but are you learning and growing from it? Are you cutting that cycle off? You have to pay attention to the healthiness of it. And I think it's less love, more healthy. Is that weird to say?
Not at all.
Does that make sense?
That I agree with everything that you said there.
It's just mind blowing.
It's interesting because the more that I apply states of consciousness to my work, I see how abundance is a state of consciousness. I see how physical health is a state of consciousness. And so is love. Love in any of these relationships that we're talking about. And people have different states of consciousness, which brings them to love the way that they do, whether that is a very unhealthy, conditional way, controlling way, sacrificial way, lack, or they're loving out of lack, versus being able to hold space, versus being able to, withstand watching someone else go through something, and still being able to be there for that person and support them on their own personal journey, right? Understanding that they're on their own thing, even though you're with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. it's hard growing up. We are taught if you go through something, your spouse has to go through it with you. That doesn't give you guys the space you need to heal properly in your own journey. Because no matter if you guys have a union or not, you are two individual souls on an individual journey. There is no way. Okay, let me rewind that. Your partner can help guide you. They can help push you, but they cannot fix you.
Yes.
That's it.
Yep.
You know?
So stop asking for them to do the fixing for you.
Yes.
Because we get
comfortable.
Yeah, we get comfortable, and then we don't own it. We don't own our own healing. Yes. We don't own our own growth, and we put the onus on somebody else, and that's too much a burden to bear.
Yes.
For another person. And so it's like everyone needs to just what's a nice way to say this? To put your bootstraps on and get to your own inner work, get to your own shadow work, so that way you're not having your partner carry the weight of the both of you.
Exactly. And then if your partner's carrying the weight and you're carrying the weight, if we can, this partnership is one day I'm giving 20% and he's giving 80%, and then the next day I'm giving 100%, he's giving 100%, but it's never going to be the same. But that doesn't mean just because this person's at 20%, we both have to be at 20%. But that goes to boundaries as well within relationships, and both of you understanding, because on the opposite end, we would love to fix things for you. If we could make you feel better, we would. But you have to also understand that that's not your position either. And I think that can be hard sometimes too, is watching someone you love go through something, but energetically, you can't go down there with them the whole time.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Hard.
I think that was a big lesson that my husband and I had to learn too, because he's also an empath. But man, you put two empaths together, it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard because you can't help but feel, right?
Yes.
What the other person's going through.
There's no communication. Then, no. That's part of the toxic stuff too, because when there's no communication, you're both involved in your own head, but you have two empaths just feeling each other, freaking out. A lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. So yes, so it's one of those things where it's like having the boundaries and knowing that you can flex them.
Yes.
Okay, you can flex the boundaries too, to know when you can let in the good stuff and not just always keeping out the bad stuff, because that's what other people kind of think also, is like, oh well, if I'm not down in the dumps with the person, then I don't care enough, right?
And that took me a long time to learn too. More for me with friends. You know, when you're young and you get codependent on your friends, and then you start venting to each other, and then all of a sudden you're in this cycle of all we do is vent. So all this relationship is just kind of starting to turn that negative vibe, because we're just throwing our negative energy out there. Boundaries, again, even with friendships, because we can't fix them. And I think sometimes it's hard for friends to be honest with friends.
Yep.
And I think that's things that need to change a little bit as well. And then that kind of goes too with friends, like, when do you walk away? So have you had an experience where maybe something like that's happened, where you're just like, we may be on two different vibrational levels, I love you, but I have to walk away?
Yeah.
Experience that.
Yeah. So, and that happened a lot, just going through my healing and then becoming a healer. When I decided that this was the route that I was going to go, you know, a lot of people that I knew, like, just didn't understand it, right?
Of course.
And here's the other thing too, is like, you know, it just kind of happens organically.
Yeah.
Oftentimes. And that's okay. That's okay. That just means it's a different vibrational frequency. Not that one's better than the other, one's wrong, one's right.
No.
It's just more of, okay, this is the direction that I'm heading in. And if you're not, that's okay. Right? So yes. So yes, I have experienced that. And it was very uncomfortable. It was, even though it happened on its own, it was uncomfortable. And I did have to make a lot of peace with that. And which I did, but it was one of those things that I recognized as it was happening, like, this is what I was told was going to happen. And it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And that was okay. And then it was okay. And I realized I didn't die. Nothing, nothing bad happened. Not like I did never talk to these people again. I did. But it was more like, I ended up actually attracting to me more people who were going down a very similar path as me.
Makes complete sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was tough though.
No, never. Tell me, as an energy healer, what does it do to your energy when you are able to let go of someone who may be attaching themselves to you?
So when someone's attaching themselves, I mean, one of the things that I have my clients practice is decording energy cords from themselves. So when you do that, when you detach, or you end up just kind of, again, organically falling away from a relationship that isn't super healthy, or it's just not your wavelength anymore, you actually free up energy for the things that are more in alignment with you. Which I love seeing that. I love experiencing that, because you don't end up having regrets. You don't end up having regrets. You don't end up kind of going, well, why did I do that? It's actually, you feel more expansive as a result. That's the reason why, like, when people like they get a divorce out of like a really unhealthy relationship, or they break up out of a very unhealthy relationship, you see people lose weight. They're doing things that they love now. They're glowing. They're, and I'm not saying that that's the case in every instance, but usually when someone just knows that that's what they need to do and they actually own it and do it, they're different. They're completely, they're a whole different person, but all that energy was tied up trying to either get out, fight internal conflict, and then now all that energy is for them. You call your energy back to you, essentially.
And I think a lot of people will understand this too. It affects your mental state, and you have the right to be happy, and it shouldn't be happiness or marriage. It shouldn't be happiness or because I know there's a stigma on divorce. If you get divorced, it's the end of the world. Like, everyone's gonna judge you. You're not worthy of something. And for me, it's really hard to understand, why would you stay somewhere you're not happy? So why is this piece of paper so important to people? Is it the promise that you made? Because energy changes. Do you know what I'm like? I just get frustrated by people sticking to marriage when they're not happy. And there's time frames, okay? You're gonna go through waves. I'm not saying relationships are perfect, but for me personally, if I'm unhappy for over a year, we got some things to do. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So, like, what's your perspective on marriages and divorce when it comes to, like, honestly, anything, your mental state, energy, thought process? Why is that piece of paper holding people hostage?
Because they want the security. That's, I mean, often, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to get married and have like this, public commitment. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. So, but the thing is, if it's all about like, I just need to have someone, I just need to have my grips on someone, or they have their grips on me, and that makes me feel better.
Love.
It's not love. Yeah. Yeah, and exactly, Angie. They're uncomfortable being, being by themselves, right? So they want to feel like they belong somewhere. So there's a number of different reasons, I think, where that having that whole legal thing holds them hostage. But the thing is, do we have to? Like, I look at marriage very, very differently now. I mean, yeah, I'm married for the second time, but with everything that I have learned, if I ever had to do this again, like if something happened to him, I don't know. So the thing, because I mean, is having that as important to me? It depends. I mean, maybe yes, maybe no. But the thing is, do you have to? Do you have to? And if you feel like you have to, then what? What is the energy behind that? That's what you have to ask yourself.
Yeah. I think for me, is through my spiritual process, I've learned to never be attached. I can love someone so wholeheartedly, but do not think for a second I won't walk the hell away. Period.
Yeah, if something.
I think I want people to understand that love is not attachment.
Yes.
You can also love someone through transition. You can love someone as your husband. You can love someone as your ex-husband. You can love someone as your co-parent.
Mm-hmm.
You can still continue to love them, but you don't have to be attached to them. And I think that is what kills me the most when it comes to people and relationships, whether it's any kind of relationship. We have to learn to stand on our own. And if I'm going to cry, because I feel like if people could just grasp the fact that they are worthy enough to stand on their own, that would make me the happiest person on the world. I'm going to cry.
Aww.
I just want everyone to feel so worthy. Everyone deserves so much happiness. I don't want anyone to settle because they're comfortable. The best things happen when you step out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
Whether it's easy or not.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you on that. And you hit the nail on the head with non-attachment. Because then you're not attached to, is this person going to stay with me forever? Are they, are they doing this? Are they doing that? Do they still love me? Then you're not in this place of feeling so insecure and changing the dynamics of the relationship energetically because of your insecurity. Insecurity can make people do things and say things that are just like, what? Why would you do that? And yeah, I've done that too.
I used to be toxic as hell. I'll be the first to say it. I will find someone so quick.
Yes. And so it's this whole thing where it's like when you're not attached to the outcome, to how many years are we going to be together? Is it going to be forever? It's like just be where you are right now and focus on what you have before you right now, because if that's what you're focused on, then the ending is going to be exactly the way that you would want it to be anyway.
Yes, and I'll tell you, I had this experience where me and the love of my life, we broke up. And I was setting boundaries and I was finding myself. And then I started dating this other person. I was so worried about the future and what if he did this and what if he did end up hurting me and all these things, that I broke up with him, in my opinion, prematurely. So I lost magic because I was so worried about something that has not yet happened. I was already attaching myself to the worst case scenario. So it's not like we don't attach to the hope or anything either. We attach to nothing but negative. You take that attachment away, enjoy where you're at, just like you said, and you'll never know how long that lasts. No matter what, it'll be beautiful. You learn a lesson through it. If you didn't learn a lesson through it, then you probably need to do some more reflection, but that's a different story.
So don't create these self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yes.
By worrying about the worst case scenario, when the thing is, people have to understand too, like in a relationship, your thoughts and how you feel are so incredibly powerful. That's essentially what your energy is, by the way.
Yes.
So if you are, whatever it is that you are focusing on the most often with the greatest intensity is what's going to happen. So if that is, you're just worrying about, is this, where is he going? What is she doing? Is she seeing somebody else? Is she talking to someone? Like, are we going to be together? Does he love me? Does she, we could do that all day long. And it's like, you're messing with the electromagnetic signal that you're sending out.
Yep.
And, that's going right to the person that you're focused on. And they're going to, it's confusing. It really is confusing.
And it just makes you as a human even more confused, because then that's when you start thinking, is this the one? Well, are you giving it the opportunity to even be that?
Mm-hmm. Great point.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a damn it, Jazmine. Sometimes you learn things along the way too. Interesting.
You channeled that.
I guess, yeah. If we're gonna say something, at least make it worth it. Crazy.
But yeah, so is there anything, is there any other topics? So we have about like 13 minutes left. So is there another question or anything that anyone's brought up to you recently, or? So we talked about what love is. We talked about boundaries. When to walk away.
When to walk away. Mm-hmm. I think another one is, I'm trying to think, because if you watch my lives, guys, I hate giving love readings, so I probably try to block it out because no one likes to hear the truth. It's the most probably frustrating for me. What I would say is, understanding relationships have different rules for each relationship. Each relationship is a different energetic level. Each relationship will give you something different. I feel like the biggest thing that people come to me is more of that one person fulfilling all your needs. So it's almost like, let's talk about reflection. What are you projecting onto this person? Love language. What's your love language? What's their love language? Are you able to meet them there?
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to still compromise but have your boundaries at the same time? So let's talk about compromise, because that's a huge thing in relationships in general. And that can sometimes affect your energy.
Absolutely.
When is it different from setting boundaries and compromising and being maybe even emotionally abused type of situation? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I feel like you should stay home today. Okay, I'll stay home. And then eventually you just end up never going out because that person doesn't want you to go out.
Yeah. That's an interesting energy with that. Mm-hmm.
It is, but I guess it comes all, but see, it's so simple because it comes back to attachment. You
Correct.
know you should walk away. I'm getting so much information all at once. Sorry, guys. Hold on. I just got into my That's So Raven zone. But I feel like what they're trying to tell me is, even through relationships, you need to be selfish. You need to make sure you're taken care of.
Yep.
Physically, mentally, emotionally. Pay attention. Okay, red flags. Do you ignore red flags?
No.
And how many is too many?
So with red flag, how many is too many?
Exactly, you know?
So it's like once you don't, like, the first one should be enough, right? Because that's already like something to really take a look at from not only your energetic point of view, but the other person. So if there's already one thing, and so here's the tough part with that, because especially when people have been through really bad relationships, have had trauma, it's almost kind of hard to go, okay, you know, the person said the wrong word and I'm just going to dump them now. Like, it doesn't have to necessarily be like that, but to that person, it could be a red flag because of maybe that word triggered something, right?
Yes.
So you have to be able, with red flags, be able to weed out, are you reacting to past trauma? Because not that that couldn't inform you, but if you didn't really fully heal from that yet, then you're always going to be you're going to be finding too many faults with someone else that's probably not warranted.
Yes.
So, but if there is a true red flag, meaning, you know, like you kind of caught this person maybe not being as nice to somebody else, maybe a little physical, and it's kind of like, that's weird, you know, and then we kind of tend to kind of go, okay, well, big deal, just keep going.
And then you kind of just blow it off.
Yeah. But really, is this person physically abusive? Is this person, you know, is this someone who's controlling or something like that? So it warrants asking the questions and checking in with your own energy to go, is this really my past fear and trauma, or is this my body and the intuition that I'm picking up on giving me important information about this person? So you have to get to a place of healing. You have to. If you get out of a certain relationship, please, 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 whether it's a therapist, healer, combo of both, whoever, do it so that way you don't carry this mixed bag into the next situation.
And when it comes to even baggage in general, like, how does a person not carry baggage? Self-reflection, like getting a lesson through it. Energetically, how do you let that go?
That's going to be a combination of different things, because here's the other thing that I always say too. I never tell someone, a client, to just flat out not date, because the thing is, your interactions with people tell you if there's something more that you need to work on. If you know, so it's a fine line. You get out of a really bad relationship, you know, yes, do some work on yourself, do some forgiveness on the other person, work on building your own self-worth and self-esteem up. But then when you end up meeting another person, don't automatically go, I'm gonna like grab onto this person and then and see if we can make something happen. You got to be careful, right?
You got to be careful. You also have to be vulnerable. You have to understand every person is different and that relationship is different. And I think people get so scared of being vulnerable with someone new. But at the same time, you'll never reach that love you want if you're not vulnerable and you don't let go a little bit of, and again, healing first, but after the healing, letting go of part of that trauma. That's a major shift for a person. And if you can kind of just start being aware. I think people aren't aware of their own actions either, of their own cycles, of their own projections. What I found is the things that come most natural to me in the beginning of my relationship are the things I have to work on the most.
Yep.
Awareness.
That's good.
Just start there. If yelling and being loud to get your point across is the most natural for you, but you don't get the reaction you're looking for, fix that shit. It is you. Be honest with yourself.
So Ryan points out that awareness is a really hard thing to learn. It can be. It does require slowing down. It does require paying attention to your body's signals. in the midst of an interaction with another person. So when you are interacting, you're having a conversation, just pay attention to how you're feeling. Are you tense? Is your body tense? You feel like your stomach's squeezing? Are you starting to get nauseated? Are you clenching your jaw? Are you holding your breath? There's a lot of different things. Like your body is like this big, huge, like messenger, like boom, 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 boom. Like you've got all these things going on. Pay attention, right? And so it does just require slowing down. And the awareness just means asking yourself, what am I experiencing in this moment, in this interaction with this person? And
that's really good.
Because when you can just be in your body enough to be able to raise that awareness, then you can translate those sensations into what it is are you thinking and feeling.
That's good.
Yeah. So
honestly, because a lot of people have trouble with that.
Mm-hmm.
Even people in the metaphysical world who do this for a living, I know a lot of them who don't have that self-awareness, but they'll preach it all day. It is definitely a practice.
Mm-hmm.
For me, again, my brain works in very weird ways, but I just have to understand, like I learned it through the mirror stuff. Like everything is a mirror. So what is this conversation teaching me? What is this conversation making me feel? Did I experience something from my past that's making this bigger than maybe what it is? Mm-hmm. It's just asking yourself so many questions and knowing the ins and outs of your journey that can give you so many answers. The past has all the answers. From what I feel, like you experience things, mm-hmm. and that's how you are still mm-hmm. survival mode. It's hard to switch out of survival mode.
Yeah.
And being aware can be ugly too. And I feel like sometimes people don't want to be aware because then they see their true self, and maybe there's parts that they aren't happy about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Ryan says, trusting your intuition. So yeah, when you just start trusting what you're getting, then you can begin to trust it more and more and more. It's just, that's a practice also, allowing yourself to trust. But everything you're pointing out, Jazmine, with that, I totally agree with that. And the thing is, when you practice, and this is what I always say, my clients will tell you, I say this all the time, every interaction that you have is an opportunity to practice something different. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, you have to kind of know what it is that you want to do differently. So you have to be able to tell yourself, okay, so because I know that I fly off the handle, or because I know that it automatically thinks someone's attacking me, I am going to do this instead. And so during the communication, I'm not going to automatically think that I'm a victim. And instead, I'm going to sit there and be able to give feedback based upon what I'm getting. I'm going to be able to speak up from my throat center and be like, okay, this is exactly what I'm feeling right now as a result of what it is that you're saying. And don't be so concerned with what the reply is going to be. You might be surprised. Mm-hmm. Because if someone actually understands what you're feeling, then they can be like, I wasn't attacking you. I was just simply, this is all I was saying is this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm feeling. I'm not trying to tell you that you're doing anything wrong. And you could be like, oh my gosh, that wasn't so bad. Mm-hmm. Right? And it'd be like, oh my gosh, this person understands me. And I didn't think that they did.
You know what I just realized? How many of us are on just so many different paths? Because for me, all of this came so natural, it's hard for me to put it into words. Mm-hmm. Like for me, I just want to be the best version of myself. And the moment I learned everything is a mirror, a reflection, it just came. I'm just so mind blown right now. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. I don't
I had to, for me, I had to literally break this down into micro steps. So like in my private sessions, I break down the trigger cycle and micro steps. So what is it? Because it's the beliefs that bring on the thoughts that trigger the feelings that cause us to act. Feelings move us to act, which bring on the results that reinforce the beliefs. So it's like when I break this down, like when I had to work on my own triggers, I first had to train my body to just not run, because that was the first thing that I wanted to do. You know, so having like a conversation that I wanted to run away from, I had to literally force myself to sit there and be like, okay, we're just talking. We're just exchanging information. And then when I realized it wasn't that bad, and the next thing, I'm being asked what I think and feel, and I was so scared to say what I think and feel. I had to be like, okay, body, I'm going to talk now. I'm going to like say what I think and I feel. And even though I'm like, all these tears are coming out and I'm like the sobs in between the words. But then it was fine. Then it was fine. It is scary, Ryan.
Baby steps, man.
Baby steps. But then now it's not a big deal to have the conversation. And so when certain things come up and you practice just going through like, okay, the thoughts, what I'm thinking, what ultimately what this all comes down to is, what do I really believe about me in this interaction?
100%. And now it's coming back to me. I think I learned that through mirror work.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was 18, really young, I would just sit in front of my mirror for hours and just like stare inside my soul. And my soul would just kind of tell me what to do next. This is what you got to pay attention to.
I love that. I love that.
It's intense.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I learned about inner child healing too. They're like, give her a hug. It's going to be okay. You're safe. And all those things. But it's so intriguing. And if anyone can pick this up too, just how we're all different. We will work in different ways, but the facts still stay the facts. And listen to your energy. And if you're not happy, there is a reason behind that. You don't have to make it so complicated. Just like Rosalyn was just saying, beliefs, thoughts, you know, there is a structure to how we work. And it's not as wild and out there as people think.
Yeah.
Learn that structure for yourself.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Absolutely.
And oh, that's awesome, Brian. So she's like, so many people like you guys are helping me with that. So that's awesome.
That is awesome.
But yeah, so just understand. I mean, ultimately, when it comes to relationships, it's you yourself, right? And how you are growing, how you are healing, that's going to affect the dynamics of the relationships, and it's going to affect the results that you get from any kind of relationship that we're talking about here, whether that's your own family, friends, romantic. You know, look at your own energy. What is it that you believe about? Do you even believe that you're worthy to have the love from any of these relationships? You know, and
that's huge, you know.
Yeah, and because if ultimately you really don't, then we need to be working on that. We need to be working on what makes you worthy. And the thing is, there isn't anything outside of you that makes you more worthy than you already existing, right? And I know that that's a hard one for a lot of people to grasp, but
yeah, they'll get mad. Like, what are you talking about? What are you like? I'm trying to help you, I promise.
And it takes a while. And so so I know we're kind of going over time, but I want to say this real fast. So usually when I work with my clients and we're talking about the self-worth, you know, and the self-love, because we all know that we need to love ourselves. But we can't jump to self-love when we've been in self-dislike or self-hate for so long.
Oh, yes.
You know, you can't.
It takes time.
Yeah, we hear about, oh, you gotta love yourself, you gotta love yourself. Well, yeah, but the thing is, it takes a little bit of work to get there, because it's almost like, even though you don't really need to do this, because we're human and we're in the 3D, we actually have to kind of prove to ourselves that we're worthy of it. And how do you do that? By keeping certain small promises to yourself, by
showing up for yourself.
Showing up for yourself, speaking up for yourself, taking care of your body. All of these different things will, once you start doing them, you're kind of like, oh yeah, I do feel good about myself. I respect myself a little bit more. I do deserve that. I feel a little bit better about myself because I'm eating better and I'm going for walks or exercising. So when you start doing those things and you start to feel the change in your own energy, that's when you start to have little glimpses of what that self-love is really like. And then it gets easier and easier to move into that. So don't expect to just jump into it. You have to ask yourself, what things do I need to do for myself that would make me feel more worthy, feel more respected, and more whole, that I would be like, okay, I get it. I get that I do care about myself and I'm more compassionate.
Mine was setting boundaries. I'm like, okay, I do deserve to put myself first.
Yeah.
And that's big.
Yeah.
No, that's a big deal, guys.
It is a big deal.
You hit it on the head. You hit it on the head.
Oh my gosh. So this was such a great convo. So the replay is going to be available on my YouTube and Facebook. Brian's like, you mean there's no shortcut? Just kidding.
No.
You are putting in the work. You are putting in the work.
I think we're so used to having things instantaneously. A lot of people forget. Like, I started working on my mind at 18 years old. I am seeing the results I thought I wanted in 2 weeks. 10 years later, shit takes time, but nothing great happens overnight. And that's, you just have to keep telling yourself that.
Yeah.
You do. Continuing to try.
So, like, even this neuroscientist that I was listening to, she says it takes a cycle when you are actually working on rewiring your brain, like 63 days for one cycle. And sometimes if it's like a really big traumatic thing, it's going to take a couple of those.
And
so
when you start at a later age, you got a lot more to work through. So pay attention to that. And for all the young ones here, which we're all young, okay? Start now.
Yeah.
So by the time you're either having kids or you're fulfilled, you will feel a different level of happiness. Start today.
Yes.
Tomorrow's too late. Today is perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and we'll be continuing the conversation on Jazmine's Facebook page at 2 p.m. You're on a different time zone now?
I am on a different time zone.
So
I love it.
So still 2 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Yep, and it's gonna be 12 o'clock here.
Okay, that's right. So 2 hours.
I love it. I get done my work by 1 o'clock almost every single day.
That's awesome. But yeah, so thank you everyone for joining, chiming in. Your comments are appreciated. And then we'll be continuing the discussion in a little while. So enjoy your break and hope to see you over there. Okay? All right. Bye, everyone.